would you distinguish the difference between being conscious and consciousness and eternal existence, or the Parabrahman, the Absolute? Because when we're born, at some point, this I appears, and we think of it, we become conscious of our being, and we believe that we're a separate individual existence, existing in time and space. So this is being conscious, and that implies knowing. I know that I am. But at that time you think you're this separate individual being. But then you have consciousness itself, which there, as you know, there's a conscious presence. You're conscious of your existence, but there's no individual separate self. And then there's the Parabrahma, or the eternal existence, which nothing can be said, I guess.
Yeah, see, probably as soon as you are born, when the brain develops a little bit to enable the consciousness to become conscious of this universe. So here, that is how means you as the consciousness, so you become conscious of this universe, outside world, including that you have a physical body, but you won't stop there. You start identifying yourself with the body, a name that would have been given by parents and so on. Identification goes on, thus make you to forget your real self, that you are that consciousness of existence. So the consciousness of existence that I keep talking is possible to experience when you practice meditation and eventually get rid of all imaginations. Means nothing is left in the mind. When nothing is left in the mind, totally it is cleared of all thoughts and visions. Then you experience yourself as the consciousness of existence. You exist. And that is how you become aware of yourself. When you lose awareness of the body and surroundings. So this becomes possible. And now the Parabrahman is the ultimate truth. As long as the consciousness of existence is there, means you are conscious that you exist. It is the awareness. In that awareness, that I also is likely to keep cropping up. Oh, this is me. Oh, this is me. So in that melee, you are likely to forget the oneness of that consciousness of existence, which is simply all pervaded and which is one single self. So that is the Parabrahman. When this consciousness of existence also merges with the self, finally giving you a nirvikalpa samadhi, that's when total attributions, any awareness and any consciousness, everything disappears, but you are there. You are there. You appear as if you are not there, but you are there.
Beautiful, Baba. Thank you. So the I am consciousness, obviously you need a body for that, to have that knowingness, to have knowledge.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But do you have to have a body to have that consciousness of existence?
It is necessary first to experience that consciousness of existence. That's how you can discriminate that you are not the body, you are not the surrounding, you are not this world.
And then once you realize that, then you don't need the body anymore? Or
exactly, you don't need the body, but you don't have to put an end to the body, because the body will go on its own. I'm emphasizing this point because some groups might have advocated ending the body. It is not advocated in spirituality. There is no need to end the body. So it will go on its own way. But you don't need the body. But if the body is there, you might be able to help others. Others will get helped. Just like there is no need of a body for Baba, but if the body is there, we can create an awareness, others will be benefited.
Thank you, Baba. Kavita?
Pranam Baba. I just wanted to know what exactly is the state of a yogi, self-realized yogi's mind. Baba says the mind has merged in the self. So that state of no mind, when we ask Baba a question, Baba replies to us. Where is that uh, answer coming from? Is it instinct? Because if there are no thoughts, could you please describe the nature of, let's say, Baba's mind?
Even if, like Baba is gossiping or talking, inside that mind which has become pure consciousness is totally silent and quiet. It does not picturize or dramatize anything that we go on talking. Whether you talk to me or I talk to you, my mind doesn't crop up and doesn't become a mind by getting involved into the thoughts and visions of the story that we might be talking. Thus it is totally in silence. Though when you ask a question, it spontaneously comes to me. That's why I find it very easy to answer a question rather than imagining and giving a talk on any topic is bit difficult for me to imagine. But an answer comes spontaneously. That is from the source of the ultimate truth, from the source, from where all knowledge and ignorance all both crop up. And that is what is the Parabrahman. Because here there is no I, there is no separate I called Baba or any such thing. You are asking a question and your answer you are getting is from the ultimate truth.
So, Baba, just to follow up, then feelings like compassion, like you say, Baba has compassion or love, or so those feelings, they come from where, Babaji?
This doesn't give me any moha attachment, but an awareness. Oh, I wish. So, the same knowledge and wisdom that has come here, if it can come to others also, they can also enjoy the same peace and happiness. So, that is the compassion of the divinity for this creation. Like Adi Shankara at one place says, the divine is always compassionate to his creation. That one sentence comes. So, thus, the compassion or any kindness or answering, anything that is shown from the body comes from that divinity actually, because I do not exist anymore as an individual.
Thank you, Babaji.
It's Perrin. Thank you so much for this session, this extended session. Good to see you again. My question is, sometimes when I'm meditating, I can almost feel that I'm outside myself, like a portion of me is out of phase, out of alignment with my body, that it's slightly beside myself or squished, or and I feel like the answer is probably it's imagining, but at the same time it feels almost like I haven't been, that I'm outside of my body, that I've traveled outside.
Let me answer. When you have asked a question, you don't imagine the answer, just listen. When such a thing happens, it is likely that your mind has become better concentrated and is trying to get detached from the brain's reflections. So that's when it becomes very light, you experience yourself very light, not as the body something which you are holding. So you experience as if you are the space. That is when it is likely that you might feel that you are outside the body, whereas you are in fact inside and outside everywhere. So this you will know one day when you are able to totally realize the self. The mind is becoming more purified and is in a better position.
Okay, thank you. That's very informative. It feels kind of funny.
It appears funny, but that is the experience you are having. So whether it's funny or not, because after some time, when you feel that you are the body, it would be more funny actually than this.
I see that. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Namaste, Babaji. So good to see you again.
Nice. Good to see you all.
Babaji, is the body in the consciousness or is the consciousness contained in the body?
Initially, it appears as if the consciousness is in the body, when, as long as that consciousness has become mind and is stuck with the reflections of the brain. But once you meditate, you will realize at sometimes you might even experience that happened to us in tapas, as if the body exists within you. So you will experience yourself as the space that is simply all pervaded. Just now also, you hold a earthen pitcher and see the space inside the earthen pitcher also, and the space is outside that earthen pitcher also. So now you make out whether the space is inside the earthen pot or the space is outside the earthen pot. It is simply all pervaded. In that, the earthen pot is there. That is why the space is recognized as the ultimate truth. You remember Purandara-dasa's words, Ni ninnolage mayayo, ni mayayolago.
Mentioned that we need the body to experience the I am. What about the subtle body? We have the physical body. When that drops away, there's also a subtle body. Is that correct?
Subtle body makes you to go into another gross body, because the subtle body is in the mind, and that helps you to acquire the habits in the mind. Based on that, it helps you to go into another gross body. Only in the gross body you can experience the self.
Thank you.
Baba, you often talk about Prarabdha Karmas, and my question is, how do the Prarabdha Karmas influence from a previous life, the new life, once a new body is taken? And further to that, are there both good Prarabdhas and bad Prarabdhas, and that we experience, that we retain as we act out this our life within this physical body? And ultimately, do our Prarabdha Karmas become completely aligned through self-realization with divine destiny, so that because the individual is now gone, the karmas?
Let me answer to your questions before I forget what you are asking.
It goes that way with me, Baba.
You joke, we make fun of you, of your own mind. Well, you are talking what the word is, prarabdha, destiny. Mind's acquired habits constitute the prarabdha for a person. Like when one dies in one's life, or whatever acquired habits are there in the mind carries it to the next life. So these acquired habits of thought processes and visions, which has made the mind to form an attitude with itself. Attitude means here understanding capabilities, observation capabilities, all these things. So this is what I tell as the everybody bring a basic nature when they are born. And once the brain slowly develops and the soul becomes conscious of the body and the personality, surroundings, etc. As it grows and mingles in the society with the parents, siblings, etc., etc., it acquires further habits, absorbs. This absorbing habits also depends on the previous lives' acquired habits which are there as attitudes. What I told about understanding capacities and observation capacities. Based on that, it goes on acquiring further habits. Like this, the acquired habits are brought, they get converted as vasanas. Vasanas are the attitude of the mind. When there is an attitude to the mind, it visualizes either positively or negatively of its future. That is how a destiny forms. It gets involved by its own attitude. So thus, a prarabdha forms for it. So the positive prarabdhas can be considered as the good ones, and the negative prarabdhas are the bad ones. Means it would make that consciousness by becoming mind and getting involved in a physical body by the physical suffering and also mental suffering. So that is how the things would go. So that's why we advise, if you are more positive in your mind, you can shape a better positive destiny. If you are negative, you can be shaping a negative destiny for yourself. That is what the 6 enemies also of the human mind I have explained. The extreme greed, extreme anger, and extreme attachment to materialistic world, and extreme stinginess, and false pride, jealousy, all these. The 6 shapes. So everything comes under these 6 shapes only. So that is how they have attributed to 6 enemies of the human mind. That is how the prarabdha works, as positive or negative.
But when a yogi, for a self-realized yogis, prarabdhas are still influencing the nature. One yogi has a different nature than another nature, though they're completely detached and not acquiring any more karmas. Can you explain that?
When the body undergoes, suppose for example, I have become a yogi now, I have stopped my future because there is no desire, there is nothing else that I have to achieve. Simply by a previous acquired habit, I am carrying on the mission of teaching others, creating awareness. Mind really doesn't mind whether there are 69 people or 169 people. It is all the same. Whoever is destined to receive our blessing, they are brought by the divinity. So I just go on simply doing our creative. So one day the body will simply go. Until then, this body will undergo all its destiny. Means if there are 4 people who are supposed to receive our blessing, that is the destiny of this body. So if there are 40 people to come and receive blessings, that also forms as a destiny. But all these destinies won't play anything in my consciousness which is no more a mind. Whether it is 4, 40, any positive happens, negative happens, any suffering happens to physical body, anything that happens, the consciousness will not be affected. It remains in itself in supreme peace.
Could we say a yogi's prarabdhas are divine in nature at this point because they don't have any of the qualities of negativity or positivity anymore, that it's completely in line with the divinity?
Yeah, because the mind has merged with the divinity, so you can call that prarabdha also like a play. Leela, that's the word is used, divine.
I have a follow-up question about acquired habits and what you've been talking about. Previously, you just said something that I never heard before. You said that the subtle body carries the acquired habits. And I heard that from the standpoint of, okay, when you're watching, when you're slowing down and purifying the mind, do you purify the subtle body? And then can you talk about how watching actually purifies the mind or the acquired habit?
In a simple language, to give you an example of a subtle body, I have explained in my talks like I am a man, I am an woman, I am an American, I am an Indian, I belong to this religion, I am a business person. Like this, imaginations occur about our own personalities. They all become subtle bodies within our consciousness. They are the subtle bodies. This is the gross body that we have obtained. Gross body, it is just recognized because actually this is also an illusion, but we call it as a gross body. We are inside this dimension universe. That's why we recognize this physical body as a reality. That's why we call it as a gross body. Further, in our mind, in our consciousness, so many personalities about us is also there. So this becomes the acquired habits of the mind. And this enables the mind to acquire next birth if this body goes. As long as these subtle bodies are all there. Subtle bodies are also imaginations that the mind is holding. As long as there is a mind, so they will be the acquired habits, all subtle bodies. So then it becomes attitude of that mind. So that's what I call it as acquired habits of the mind. So based on that attitude, it acquires next gross body on the dimension of a manifested world. So that is what, for sake of understanding, we tell this. Until in a gross body, you don't clear all those subtle bodies, all those imaginations of the mind. All those subtle bodies means all those imaginations that are in the mind, so that the mind becomes pure consciousness. When it has become pure consciousness, there are no more desires. So that's what happens. Then only it gets liberated.
From the watching standpoint, just watching, what is actually happening? Are you just taking conscious energy away from that acquired habit, or is something else happening?
Because as long as these subtle bodies are there, imaginations are there in the subconscious state, they have become attitude. So the mind keeps imagining, it keeps cropping up all the time, hundreds and millions of thoughts. When we practice just watching, as I told, all these thoughts, including subtle bodies, everything, they all get evaporated, because when we are just watching, we stop recognizing these thoughts, visions, and subtle bodies within our mind. Mind stops recognizing. That's what technically happens. The moment mind stops recognizing any thought, any vision, or any subtle body that is within itself, they all get evaporated, disappear quickly. Just before it goes, it is shown as a thought process or a visual effect, vision, because of the brain's effects. The brain decodifies. That is the test of patience. At that time is what is needed. Just watch, just watch. That's what we emphasize, we insist. So if you can simply watch, so because you don't recognize, that is the technique. As long as you hold on to the thought, it is there. You see, if you observe your mind, an imagination is there as long as you hold on to it. The moment you give up, it disappears. That is the technique of meditation.
Thank you, Baba.
Just for clarification, you used the word vasanas earlier, which roughly means desires, right?
Yes.
And then these acquired habits of the mind, most of those, besides the imaginations, aren't they the judgments? You used to explain that a lot. The samskara is how we decide, we analyze, and then we decide something is such and such, true or false, and then that gets stored away and we never visit it again, and it becomes a kind of a guiding principle in our life.
Yeah, we can tell that. In a way,
Is
that's
that
what. Yeah, that's what. If so, that is why if there is a positive acquired habit, that can guide you back towards divinity. If it is a negative, it will take you away from the divinity. So that is what is called self efforts. So those who are able to put self effort and keep going towards divinity means they have a larger quantity of positive positive things that are acquired in the mind. That is important.
Good morning, good evening, Baba. Thank you so much again for being with us. It's really amazing and wonderful. I have a question about fear and the watcher. And like lately, I just have events in my life that are creating a lot of fear, more than usual. So, I'm wondering, there's the watcher. I can see that I'm afraid. There's like this outside watcher consciousness that's observing, okay, I'm in fear, or okay, I'm enjoying the day, or okay, I feel free. The watcher is just observing what's going on. So I actually have two questions. The first question is, um, does this watcher have an impact on the fear that I'm experiencing? So that's the first question.
Yeah, that's why that fear is not going away. You recognize the watcher, but the watcher is simply not watching. He is recognizing the fear and he is trying to think about that fear. So, this makes the fear to grow within itself. So, that's why the fear is not going away. So, you have to actually just watch in the mind. You have to watch. Otherwise, the mind watches and gets involved. Mind watches and gets involved. It can watch, but it should not get involved. Like you can watch this world. Even a yogi also gets to see this world, but no involvement, no further imaginations about this world, and no involvement. So that's what you have to avoid. To avoid this, you have to meditate and just watch. That is what just watch means. What we insist 100 times, 1,000 times. Just watch means don't get involved. Don't think about that fear. Don't recognize that fear as a fear. Then the fear will vanish.
Okay, so I'm not watching the fear. I'm not thinking about it, trying to solve it, fix it. I'm just watching. So when I meditate, I just watch. Okay, so the second question is, there's this watcher who's watching, and I get this deep sense that at some point the watcher is really almost a part of the imagination as much as anything else, and that at some point I'm no longer watching. I'm simply aware. I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that, but I'm not like actively watching. I'm being. I'm just aware. Is that where this leads?
Yes, exactly. If you don't get involved by further imagination, you are just aware of the existence of the world, but you are not getting involved. So that means you are that watcher, but no imagination. You have simply the awareness, being.
Okay, thank you, Baba. Thank you as always.
Hi, Bob. I'm so happy to be here with you today. This is such a fascinating conversation, and I started with one question, but I'm really fascinated about this idea, the vasanas, and the vasanas being desires. And the last man that spoke was speaking about fear. So my question is, and I know this sounds strange, but is fear actually a form of a vasana, of a desire? I mean, do we actually desire in some strange way, maybe because of a collective, the collective habits, mental habits? Do we actually desire these things that we think we're not desiring?
Because there's fear and vasana and you getting involved. These are the three things. There is a fear that becomes a desire because you are not just watching the fear, you are getting involved into the fear. Even wanting to get affected and recognizing a fear, so mind enjoys in suffering also. Into the imagination, sometimes you would have seen your mind, so it feels as if you are suffering and everybody is sympathizing. Oh Linda, how sweet, how bad you are suffering, why God has chosen you. So that gives a lot of pleasure. Oh, somebody is sympathizing with us. So all these forms as vasanas and desires, just to have these sympathies, that becomes the desire. So you don't want to get rid of the fear, but want to hold on to the fear. So that becomes a desire. So that is how you get involved into the vasanas of both positive, negative, good or bad, happiness or unhappiness. You get involved into the duality. You just have to get rid of everything. The fear itself, you should not get involved. Nothing should become a desire. Nothing should get converted as a desire, whether to suffer, not to suffer, because there is neither suffering nor no suffering.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so you were saying that if we change the vasanas, we will change our destiny. So if we don't become involved, if we see the pain and we just don't become involved with it, or we see the joy and just don't become involved with whatever it is, that non-attachment to these things will change our destiny?
Now there are two options. One is you want to keep a desire. So we advise, if at all you want to keep a desire for good things, positive things. Thus, if you imagine, if you develop a desire positively, I tell that you can shape a positive destiny for yourself. This is one thing. But there is always a risk that the mind might slip into a negative desire also. It cannot keep quiet with one. That is the effect of duality. So as a final answer, we try to advise meditate and just watch. Then you can totally get rid of all desires. Means neither positivity nor negativity, neither you want to suffer nor you want to get rid of the suffering, because there is nothing. So this can liberate you totally, just like a yogi would have liberated himself or herself. So when we are liberated, I have stopped all the future. There is no future. So stopped totally, because the self is going to be in itself. There is no desire, no further anything to achieve. So self-realization has happened. So in this journey, as long as the body is there now, whatever appears to get achieved for this body, it happens, automatic divine activity, that is known as. So it happens, whatever happens. Say for example, so Baba might get one ashram in his name, in his native village. Some other places also, some devotees might come, offer and want to make an ashram for Baba. So it happens. And another thing, nobody comes to make any ashram for Baba, because no ashram happens. So either way, Baba is quiet, at peace, no desire that I need to have 10 ashrams, no desire that I don't want to have any ashrams. Either way. So then you get rid of the destiny, vasanas, you clear everything.
And that takes trust. I trust in Baba.
Thank you, Bob.
My question is kind of a rudimentary. I have been finding myself very deep in meditation, and then all of a sudden I have to like wake up and open up my eyes for a minute, and then I go right back in. I get this feeling like I don't know where I am. So I'm kind of curious. I've not experienced that before. It's happened a couple of times now. So I was kind of curious what that might be.
As long as when you go in, you don't simply feel unconscious, but you are aware of your existence in meditation. Then when you come out also, so you might be experiencing what you are talking. So that's no problem. Because when you go back, you will simply go back to your real self. That's what is happening. So you continue with that meditation in that quietness, enjoy. One day you will get liberated.
Baba, I have not experienced the infiniteness of the self, but I always wonder, like, Baba, when we think, from the universe perspective, science says that, this is infinite because they have not been able to measure it. And it blows away my mind that we were living on this planet and there is, what is infinite? Because when I try to imagine it, let's say I'm sitting in this room, there is always something outside. The moment I say that, this is the boundary, there is always something outside of it, right? And how can something be infinite? There has to be some, and there has to be some end to it, right? Can there be space
Any-
after space, planet after planet?
Okay, the question about infinite is really interesting because in science, all objects, whatever they have discovered, invented, or get to see, they have imagined a terminology. This terminology is for sake of communication and understanding. Nobody really knows what this universe is. Everything, every object, it all exists in its own way. Today it is there and tomorrow it's going to go away. And now, whichever is not this object, whichever is not going to disappear, they have imagined as infinite. In other words, it is the space. But this space is not simply a void place as imagined in science. That is what you experience in meditation when you go introvert. I have told in between these two thoughts, there are thought after thought keeps coming, millions of thoughts. But every in between two thoughts, there is a gap. That gap is the space. That space is not space, but that is the infinite Atman. That is the soul. That is the pure consciousness. Only individually in a deeper meditation, you experience this and become aware that this consciousness is simply everywhere. It is all pervaded. Just like even now also, nobody can measure the space. It is boundless. However, everybody knows that it is boundless and it is all pervaded. This has to be an imagination because nobody has seen the all pervadedness of space. Nobody can ever travel throughout the space, impossible. You can go to Mars, you can go to Jupiter, you can go to any other system, any other Milky Way, but you cannot travel throughout the length and breadth of the space because it is boundless, it is absolute. So this is the true supreme consciousness. This is visible. Like in Yoga Vasistha, Vasishtha talking to Rama, he tells, "Hey Rama, for me, the Atman is totally visible everywhere because I am aware of that." Vasishtha was aware. Yogis are aware of that truth. That's why it is simply visible. As a youngster, we also thought, if God, if divinity is all pervaded, how can the divinity hide from our eyes? It is impossible. It is simply that we are not aware that this is divinity. We are thinking something else about that divinity. So that has made us unaware, ignorant of the facts. So we always tell, if you know what God is, your problem will be solved. So just now, this is good enough answer. So some other time we can discuss more elaborately, more good questions coming. And this was a nice question. You keep churning within your mind on what I said. Well, thank you, Agastya. Thank you, Victoria, for helping me to conduct this meditation and taking the question and answering them